Hello, elegant listeners and viewers, and welcome to Go, My Favorite Sports Team. Today is a special episode. Not only am I here, which I always am, you never miss me, which is sad. I feel like you should miss me. Maybe they should miss me.
They should miss you more.
They should miss me more. Yeah. You know, it's once, you only see me once a week, to be clear.
What if you just disappear under the camera and then they just can't see you anymore? Yeah. Oh, no, Tyler's gone. No.
But if you couldn't tell, today we are joined by an absolutely fantastic guest. As Mark is out being Mark, doing his busy things, we have brought in a better co-host, a more fantastic, gorgeous man, director of the Nancy Lieberman Back to Life Center at Mount Sinai, Rocket League gamer extraordinaire, and generally amazing outspoken person in gaming and accessibility, my good friend, Steven Spohn.
Yeah, insert crowd cheering here.
Oh, there's a ton of crowd cheering.
Honestly, I get confused for Mark all the time. Like, people look to me, Mark, what happened to you? And I'm like, oh, I'm in a chair now. You know, so it's easy to get us confused. You can see the same complexion, the beard. Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to mistake you two. But how are you doing today, Steve?
Yeah, you know, it's great. I'm on a weekend vacation and about to do the birthday thing tomorrow, actually.
That's exciting.
Super excited. Yeah. By the time this airs, I'll be old. I'll be officially an old. You can now call me an old. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, join with me, Go My Favorite Sports Team listener, all you elegant listeners and viewers, in wishing Steve a happy birthday right now. Not way after the fact when this episode airs.
That's right. Do it psychically.
You can feel it.
Yeah. You're in tune with Tyler. Freaking know what he's thinking before he thinks it. Damn it.
Exactly. That's how you become a sports knower, right?
That's right.
You're a sports not knower, but when you're a sports knower, you can just psychically connect with other sports knowers.
That's right. When you don't know the things that you not know, then you know the things you do know that you don't not know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But today we're going to be talking about accessibility in sports, and particularly we're going to talk about how Steve got into the accessibility space. The big thing being, in gaming, one of the biggest things that you've been a huge proponent for and worked with Microsoft and a whole bunch of other different companies in making gaming accessible and bringing gaming even into hospitals for people to be able to play and even to people's houses.
Yeah.
Much like esports, bringing accessibility is important, but there's also a need for accessibility in traditional sports. And we're going to talk about some of the traditional sports and some of the spots where it's lacking and where the barriers are.
I thought I was here to talk about Oreos, but okay, that sounds good too.
We can talk about Oreos if Oreos wants to sponsor us.
Oh, hey, Nabisco, hit us up.
Come on. Especially Steve. Unlimited Oreos.
Brother, you and I have been in this to win it for years together, so if either one of us gets a Nabisco sponsorship, we are splitting that truck of Oreos.
Yeah, the truckload of Oreos. I don't know if I could eat that many. They need to have half of them vacuum sealed at least.
Just imagine a dump truck just backing up. You're just like, well, that's a thing, huh?
But Steve, I'm going to give the floor to you to go ahead and introduce yourself. I already gave him some information, but...
My name's Steve Spohn. I am currently the director of the Back to Life Center at Mount Sinai. It most recently being named the Nancy Lieberman Center, thanks to a wonderful donation that was made in her honor to bring this center to life. She was a wonderful woman who had an accident. She was a high-powered lawyer, and her and her husband were big movers and shakers in New York, and she... As soon as she recovered from her injury, and I mean mentally, not physically, waking up discovering she's quadriplegic, immediately asked the caretakers at the hospital when she could return to work and when she could resume normalcy. And they had the task of telling her that most people don't return from a injury like that. And we really want to change that. Her vision was that people with disabilities could have a better quality of life. And so I reached out to a mutual friend of ours in the entertainment industry and told them about how this cool and the opportunity that I was coming into. What I was told was sort of the foundational piece I've been standing on, which is who teaches people to be disabled? Nobody does right now. If you're out there in the world and you're disabled, you got to learn how to be disabled because, quite frankly, it's the easiest club to join and the hardest one to get out of. So I'm sure there's at least a portion of your audience that is currently going, why are you even talking to this guy? Accessibility slash disability is not that important. And it's usually not that people are mean or they don't want to talk about this stuff. It's that they don't see it as important because our society tends to downplay the role of a disabled person and how easy it is to become one. So I think it just behooves all of us to remember that these resources are out there, that people are out there who care, like yourself, who just want everyone to be able to continue to access things, whether it's video games or going to a stadium. And to, I told you before we started, like the amount of stories I've got of, going to stadiums and getting wheeled with Bob into back doors where they take garbage in to go watch a sports game. It's amazing, but it happens.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the craziest things to me that me and you have had this discussion before is there are all kinds of different levels to disability.
Yeah.
And you even pointed out, because I'm immunocompromised post kidney transplant and stuff like
Yep.
that I fall under, and I actually was on disability before I got my kidney transplant. And it's one of those disabilities that you don't physically see it, so people don't realize. And it's also less stigmatized because you don't physically see it. I think people need to get over their discomfort and get over their struggles with seeing somebody who's been through something traumatic or struggling with something with disability, and instead acknowledge them as a human being and think about them when they are building buildings, when they're designing games, or making even sports.
Absolutely. I mean, my favorite one is when someone who is anti talking about this kind of stuff, and they will literally be sitting in a pair of glasses telling me that they don't understand. They're not disabled. Do you realize? Like, you are wearing glasses. Technically, you are. So, yeah, you know.
Yeah, technically that falls under it. In fact, some of the sports focused in like certain sports in this list that I have that are part of the Paralympic sports are designed specifically for blind people.
Yes.
I actually had my vision correction with I had lenses inserted into my eyes just a couple years ago.
Oh, wow. You're a bionic. You are now a bionic. Neat.
Yeah. What people don't know is if I do this, I can actually like zoom in and see you in HD.
Oh, man, I'm so sorry. Oh, forgot to pick my nose before this. Darn it. Okay, well,
But yeah, talk about your experience growing up, because you've been disabled your entire life.
yeah, I was born with a condition called spinal muscular atrophy. It is a disorder that is akin to ALS. Everyone knows what that is. Think of ALS, but a much slower progressing, slower onsetting disease. There are people who are still up and walking around with my disease. And then there are people who are way worse off than I am who don't make it past their single digit years. Back in my day when I was raised, when dinosaurs were flying in the air, you were lucky if you made it to double digits. Most people died. I was considered the oldest person in Pennsylvania until 1995 or something like that, because just nobody made it that far. Now there's people in their 60s and 80s with this disease. So science has come a long way. It's helped a lot. But I've never walked, I've never run, I can't lift my arms up. Every time Tyler and I hang out, it's usually video games because that's still accessible. He keeps promising to take me to a Penguins game, has not done it yet. So other than that, it's just a matter of going where wheelchairs can go and enjoying what you can of life that doesn't involve kicking a ball.
Yeah. But even that has become accessible for people in wheelchairs. There's wheelchair soccer now.
There is wheelchair soccer. Murder Ball's a big thing. Has a video game coming out soon, which is phenomenal.
I'm excited for that. I'm
Yeah,
excited for that.
that should be cool. There's a really cool game you should check out. It's a sports game. I don't know if you ever do sports, but you should consider checking that out. It's essentially an obstacle, like an American Warriors kind of thing, except for you have to stay in a wheelchair the whole time, and you have to navigate fans that are running and logs that are spinning, and it's really kind of interesting how the physics would work on a manual wheelchair trying to go through a parkour course.
You know, it's crazy. I just thought about this. Getting over it in a way showcases disability in the entire game.
Yeah, you just use your arms. Yeah.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
using your arms and a hammer. There's no legs, there's nothing there.
Yep.
So in a way it is, you could literally reskin it and it would be in a wheelchair.
There's an inspirational speaker who literally his entire inspirational story for TED Talks and whatnot is that he essentially got into an accident and has nothing below the coccyx bone. So it's like no legs, no any part of his anatomy that should be down below the waistline is pretty much gone. But everything you need to live is above that. So he's still with us. So it's amazing what science can do nowadays, and especially now that people aren't written off. I think that's a big one. Is just seeing people as equals, whether it's not to be super political on a show, but as long as we see everybody as equals, and I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, that's the key thing. Valuing all life, that life exists regardless of what form that life takes.
Yeah.
The Paralympic sports that have been adapted, we have archery, track and field has a lot. It's listed under para-athletics. There's wheelchair badminton and para-badminton, different versions. Blind football, which is entirely designed around being blind, but they do allow other para-athletes to be able to play. They wear blindfolds. Bocce ball, which I never would have, or is it boccia? Boccia.
Bocce, yeah.
Climbing, which is relatively new. Cycling, equestrian, fencing, goalball, para-judo, para-powerlifting, para-rowing, parachuting sports, which arguably you could adapt that to be a VR/video game version. Sitting volleyball, swimming, table tennis, taekwondo, triathlon, wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby, and wheelchair tennis. Now, I just recently thought of a sport that I think you could do, Steve.
Yeah, okay.
Imagine if they changed motorsports and made it para-motorsports, but it's wheelchairs.
Oh, I like that.
And you're wheelchair racing on the track. So you literally, there's specifications you get in, they adapt the wheelchair and they build it, and then you race against each other.
I would have freaking loved that back in the day. As my disease progresses, you get weaker in the arms and the legs and everything starts going. But when I was younger and I could fully drive, true story, Medicaid only pays for the base level of any wheelchair. Like a power wheelchair only comes with its default settings and whatnot, but you can take it to a pimp out shop and you can actually get motors that are faster, tires that are bigger. I literally was like, I need the community package. So my little wheelchair when I was 25 years old could go like 14 and a half miles an hour down the road. It's great.
Well, with e-bikes today, they could probably make them go even faster.
Probably even better motors nowadays. Yeah. Speaking of stuff, I sent you something on the side. My one friend, Garrison Red, we met over working at Sinai. He's currently doing Paralympics, and
Oh, wow.
he's actually going for rock climbing and bodybuilding. So he might be a Paralympic world champion in a couple of years. He's a strong boy, completely paraplegic, but yeah, he does a lot of cool stuff when it comes to working out and getting to go, traveling overseas to compete in World Cups and hopefully representing Team USA.
Yeah, I like the hashtag adaptive climbing.
Yep. Yeah.
Paraclimbing also with that is phenomenal, but adaptive is so fitting because it's like adjusting things to make it so it's more accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually making things that are meant for everybody.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about, so because I'm talking with you, I'm thinking about all these different sports that we could potentially make that would be accessible for somebody with your disease. We talked about motor racing and making it like a track race.
Yeah.
But snowmobiling in the winter.
Okay.
Because I've got winter sports listed here.
Yeah.
Para ice hockey. I know you're a big ice hockey fan, so
I actually did play adapted ice hockey in my teen years. I was a goalie. So you literally put a hockey stick, you turn it sideways so that the flat part is facing outwards, and you hold it in front of your foot boxes where your feet are. And then essentially you stand in the middle and you swivel left and right depending on which way the puck is coming to deflect it. It's pretty neat.
Did you play any other adaptive sports? Was hockey the main one?
Yeah, I was big into adaptive bowling too, which is really pretty fun. Well, adaptive bowling is pretty wild though, because in some ways it almost feels like cheating, but it's amazingly fun. So essentially, what they do is imagine like a Price is Right slope. They put a it's a structure made of two metal PVC pipes that have a top ledge and then a slope downwards and a curve at the bottom facing upwards. And you put the bowling ball on top. You put the thing anywhere you want behind the line, left to right. You tell an able-bodied person where you want it, left to right, or if you can move it yourself, you move it yourself. and then you take a run behind it, and you use the chair to slam into the structure, which kicks the bowling ball down the ramp, makes it fly forward and off, and then go down and hopefully hit some pins. It's pretty fun.
You want to know what's crazy is I think there's an even better way to do it is like putting an accessible like hook at the bottom of the chair and like swinging, and you press when you want to release, so then you then swing and release it and it rolls.
Nowadays with switches and APIs, and I think that kind of thing will be absolutely possible. I'm super excited. I know computers and AI and robots are a bit of a touchy subject in a lot of places now, and there are a lot of bad things that they can do, but there are also some very good things that robots and computers can do, and helping disabled people is definitely one of them. I would love to do that kind of thing. I'm not a big hunter, but I always thought, like, how cool would it be if you could attach your joystick to a remote operated sniper rifle or something like that? Like, kinda, go and shoot a Bambi if that's your thing. Like, whatever it is that you're sporting you enjoy, I feel like nowadays there's so many cool adaptive ways that you might be able to do it. I know of one camp in the area where, like, you literally just jump into a minivan and they just take you, hunting in the woods. It's just like as if it's just another day, and I love those experiences where they make sports where they don't make you feel like, "Oh, little buddy, you're getting to do this thing." It's just like, "Yeah, get in the van, let's go."
Yeah, you just get to ride along and go there, which is why I like the idea of like you get an adaptive controller or something like that, which is also a shout out to Real Good AI, who is trying to do ethical use of AI and computing for charity function and so much more, while not trying to make AI also not be used for the bad things.
Yeah.
Which is stealing other people's work and other things like that. So
Hey, you're artists for sure, but also, yeah, I think you can have both points of view. I think you can admit that AI is a tool, robots are a tool that can help people. They also are just like anything; they can be used for evil. We have to choose not to be evil.
exactly. But we have winter sports here with para-alpine skiing, which I think could also be adaptive to wheelchair.
It is too. The one of the guys I work with is Olympic snowboarding. That's a big one.
Yep. Para-biathlon, cross-country skiing. We talked about ice hockey, and then I have snowboard and curling. I could see you doing curling. You just ram the stone and just launch it.
Oh my gosh, that would be the most exciting and simultaneously boring sport that you could ever do, I think, as a wheelchair, because it'd be really fun for like a minute as you're ramming speed at this thing. And unless you miss, then that could be entirely awkward.
Well, what if you're the sweeper? You're like going across and sweeping like you're a Zamboni.
Like a Zamboni just clearing the ice in front of there. I used to say when I was young, I just wanted to make a side business where I just took a shovel and I attached it to my wheelchair and we just plow snow. Damn, adults would never let me do that.
Honestly, turning like your wheelchair into any sort of construction equipment, like you're just full backhoeing, like I'm digging holes.
It's just me and a bobcat rolling around.
No, you are the bobcat.
I am the bobcat now. Yeah, I'm the captain now.
So much of this, like, you need to have some semblance of movement, right? A lot of the different adaptive sports is there's some level of movement. Like powerlifting there's not really a way that can be adapted to somebody who can't move at all. But like shooting sports, eye trackers, like we talk about this in video games, the accessibility controllers and things like that could potentially be used to then be able to make shooting sports accessible.
Yeah. And I think what's really smart is so the adaptive esports tournament that I helped Logitech set up is for gamers who have any kind of assistive technology that they need to use in gaming. And we modeled it after the Paralympics, which I think was the best thing that has ever been invented. Essentially, the Paralympics came up with a way where they can assess your level of severity of disability. So if you can only move from the neck up, if you can move from the waist up, if you can move from the legs down, how much trouble do you have? How much of a challenge is it? And like they score you on a scale of 1 to 3, and there's 4 different categories. One being able-bodied, or at least close enough to it that they count you as able-bodied, and then the 3 other levels being severity of how disabled you are. It's always sticky wicket when you start comparing disabilities to disabilities. People get kind of, a little bit shielded up about it. They don't want to be worse than someone. They don't want to be better than someone. It feels gross. But they found a really nice way to do it and say, this is how we make it fair. If you can't move your legs, but your body in the upper part works, your upper limbs still are good, then you can be a lifter. You can still power lift. You can still do whatever you can. If you're a quadriplegic and obviously you can't move your arms, you're not going to power lift, so therefore you're not going to be welcome in this sport. It's not because we don't want you, it's because your disability is more severe on the scale than we can accommodate. And I think that was a really good way to do it, was to say, here's the levels that we know of currently, that there is technology that can bring you back to where you could compete with others in this sport. And then there's, well, you know what? We wish we could, but unfortunately, there's nothing that can make you get up and salsa dance. So I'm probably not going to be on Dancing with the Stars, right? But, here's some other options for you.
I think you could be on Dancing with the Stars. I think you can dance in a wheelchair. I'm saying it right now.
I've done it. It's true. Yeah.
You can jam out.
Well, you saw me do it when I was dancing and accidentally caught Mark's guitar under my footrest.
That's true. That's so true. I actually have that guitar now. I have it hidden away, but I have that guitar.
I was so happy I didn't kill that thing because I was swinging. Oh,
The little mini Martin guitar. Yep.
yep.
That was used on tour. That might be worth a pretty penny if somebody wants to buy it, but I don't know if I'll ever sell it.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would assume that these are now artifacts.
Yes. Forever history of Markiplier, who's not here right now. So,
And friends. Yeah.
And friends. Don't forget
Yes.
the and friends.
And friends, yes.
I am an and friends.
There's a gaggle of you, so I feel like we must make sure to include the and friends. And no one's an island. Everybody works together. Yeah.
That's true. It's true. Which is also why we as a society need to come and work together to make the world more accessible. And so in talking about that, we're trying to make sports accessible. We listed some of the sports that are available right now and some of the ways we think we could adapt some stuff.
Yep.
But I actually wanted to talk about some of the actual barriers that a lot of people that you've experienced and a lot of other people with disabilities have experienced.
Yeah.
The most obvious one is physical barriers.
Well, like I said, nothing can stop me except for a 1-inch curb. So,
Yeah.
that's and then there's the darker side of humor, which you and I know from conventions. You were always like, well, you can't go that way. There's an escalator. And I'd always be like, I can once, so, there's barriers out there. And for me, I feel like the biggest barrier is often where people could make a situation accessible with an easy, very cheap to build accessibility feature. A couple pieces of plywood can often make a ramp. Like, we don't actually have to do much in a lot of cases. It's just the willingness to do it.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is like acknowledging the fact, like we talked about with the Paralympics, how they scaled that there are different levels to disability. That's not to say one is harder or worse than the other. I'm a big viewpoint of like everybody has their own troubles, their own tribulations.
Yep.
You can't compare one person's journey versus another. And as a person who's been through a lot, when people go, oh my God, I can't believe, you've been through that. That's amazing and how much accomplished you are. And I'm like, I don't know any different. You don't know any different.
Right.
You see it in other people, sure, but your life is your experience. You don't have the experience of anybody else's life.
No. Rolling a mile in someone else's wheels is important.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's hard for you and me as a person to be like, yeah, your life is easier. I don't think that. I think in a lot of ways it's a lot easier for you to say that because there's a lot of stuff that's not accessible to you because of a 1-inch curb or the lack of an elevator, or mostly due to the social stigma and where they kind of like take you to a back corner or put you in a certain box somewhere else. Like it's less about physical, it's less about the social, or more about the social.
It is. There's a lot of pre-made connotations with being disabled. There's a lot of societal expectations. There's a lot of negatives to come with it, but there's also one thing I think is very much the Fred Rogers look to the helpers. I think there's a lot of good people out there. The barriers can be overwhelming sometimes if you are someone who's disabled, because there are often things that people don't think about. That it's, there's stairs and this guy's in a wheelchair, he can't get in. That's an easy one. But what about, are your doorways ADA compatible? are they wide enough for someone in a power wheelchair or just a manual wheelchair? Do you have an entrance, but it's a back entrance where, you have to go through garbage? The one story I referenced earlier where essentially me and a couple of our friends, including Bob, had to go backstage to one of the tours, through the part where they threw garbage out and on a steel elevator that was only meant for taking equipment up and down because they had no way for you to get to the green room, unless you went up a staircase or this service elevator, because they never imagined someone in a wheelchair might be invited to a green room and in a tour facility. And it's just, it's that again is a societal thing. That's not that there was barriers made man-made there. They were just not thought of.
Yeah. It's the overlooking it. But then there's some really kind people that do everything they can to accommodate you, walk you through. I mean, one of the biggest things is just keeping a facility clean in general. Even if that's the place where they take the garbage out, there shouldn't be garbage strewn about. Hopefully it doesn't stink, like acknowledging the fact that that exists. And there's so many good people out there that point those things out and work hard to make things as accommodating as possible for people with disabilities or people that have different things like peanut allergies or, a million different things. It's also why I think vaccines are important, not to get, I don't think it's political, but because I'm immunocompromised, people with disabilities and other illnesses, like I can't get live vaccines. I can't get a polio vaccine. So I can't be protected from polio except by other people being protected from polio so it doesn't spread and get to me.
Yeah, you depend on herd immunity, and a lot of us who can't get out to get those vaccines depend on the ability for able-bodied people who can go to do these kind of things to go do them and do your social responsibilities. I think there's a lot of things in life that come down to if everybody does their part, it makes it easier for everybody.
I agree. And then we kind of talked about physical barriers and social stigma, but there's also digital barriers. I mean, a lot of times, like you worked really hard on this when you worked over at Able Gamers to make computers and different things accessible in video games with different controllers, with different tools to make things accessible. But then there's also like the planning pre-engagement events that take place in the online world where people have to be signing up or purchasing tickets to spectate an event where websites aren't built to be accessible in and of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and where websites themselves don't even necessarily cater well to what a disabled person needs. Like, for example, going to a sports game is often a nightmare for someone who is in a power wheelchair because there's only a certain section that is allowed for power wheelchairs because they're bigger, so they need more space. And they're often put together with other people who are in similar situations, but they give none of the feel that a game has. They'll be sectioned off from everyone else. And I think, I think there's some things that I wish that American sports teams would learn from the European scene. Oftentimes, in their version of football or rugby, as we would call it, the disability seats are right up front. They're right up near the sidelines. They're right up near the end zones. We often tend to put people in a wheelchair up halfway to the nosebleed section. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can learn from each other and various cultures on how to be a little bit more inclusive and make people feel welcome. Like, I don't think that you should have to prove that you're disabled because you're not visibly disabled. You are disabled, though. I think that you shouldn't have to present something that says, "Yes, I'm disabled." There shouldn't be a disability card, but there also needs to be a way to limit the bad actors. Like one of the things that I always have with Penguins games is in the days before I knew people to call up to be like, "Hey, can you get me into a box seat?" Back, in the day when I was, just trying to be a fan like everyone else, oftentimes the scalpers would buy up all the disability seats and then resell them for 3 times the amount of money. And if you're already on a disability income, you don't have $500 to go to a hockey game. You just don't. And I think that kind of stuff should be stopped as well.
And I think a lot of that is just in architecture and in building and in making stadiums, having that forethought Because I think a lot of times the reason why you're in the nosebleeds in that section is they don't think about it when they're designing the stadium.
Agreed.
And they go, oh, yeah, we need to have that. They can just go up here where everyone else walks and it's, crowded and people are getting food and it's noisy. So you can barely hear the game. You hear the echo of everybody else. Thinking about it in the building process, in the design process, in the making of the environment and showcasing the fact that, hey, tons of different people from all walks of life want to enjoy sports. It's also why this podcast exists, is people often want to enjoy sports but have a barrier to entry because they didn't grow up with it. There's a bunch of jargon thrown out on ESPN, or people treated them like crap when they were in high school, or different things happen throughout life. And the whole point of this podcast is to make sports accessible.
Yeah, which I love. That's why I've been supporting you since you started. It's nice to have people having that entry point. And I told you this back when you were telling me about the idea before it lived. Just giving people a chance to enjoy something they love is always a good thing. There should never be a time in our lives where we look down upon others for enjoying anything. I tell you, as a easily visibly disabled person, the number of times that someone has said to me with surprise, "Oh, you like the Penguins?" It's like, why wouldn't I? Why is that thought that goes through your brain that because I'm in a wheelchair means that I don't understand, like, or enjoy hockey, or I don't understand, like, or insert any sport here? I mean, I live in Pittsburgh. We have championship teams here. At least we did until the last 20 years. But we had a lot of championship teams here. So,
except for the Pirates. Never count the Pirates.
What are those? That sounds weird. Anyways, never heard of 'em. Yeah, we live in the city here. It was a very sports oriented, and you would think that the answer to that question would be 0, but the answer is not. I've had that happen to me multiple times, more hands and toes than I've got, and it's just sad. I do think that people don't like to think about disability because it makes them face their own mortality, but honestly, a man in a wheelchair, a woman who was told sports aren't for them, like there's category after category of people who just assume that you won't enjoy this entertainment field. And it's so garbage. Sports are for everybody, or they should be.
Well, and part of that too is doctors. And this is not to say doctors aren't doing the right thing in a lot of ways. But when I went into chronic kidney failure, my doctor told me, hey, you're not going to be able to play football after this. You're not going to be able to do these things. A lot of times they talk about what you can't do. They don't talk about what you can do. They want to protect themselves. And I'm one of the only people in the world, maybe even the only person in the world, to play collegiate football post kidney transplant. And that's because I got my doctor to sign off on it, because I literally said, what's the point in me wanting to live if I can't try and live the best life and the life that I want to live?
Right.
And that's not to say that I was like, oh, if I don't do this, I'll die or something like that. It was to say I should be allowed to take the risks that I want to take. I understand the risk that's there, but
right, you hit the nail on the head. There is a certain percentage of our medical society that believes the job is to save the life, and that the quality of life doesn't matter. It's a binary on or off. Are they alive or are they not? And that's not it. You need to be able to enjoy your life, not just live it.
Yeah, because that's what living life is enjoying life. It's finding the things that you find fun. It's going out and finding people to befriend or have romantic relations with or things like that. The concept of limiting somebody, unless it's harming somebody else or has the risk to harm another person, has never made sense in my mind.
Nope, me either. No, I don't think we should be limited by any of that.
People jump out of planes that are perfectly fine all the time. That's a high risk event. Like,
I mean, sports in general is a high risk thing, and what I always feel bad for is my friends I've made along the line who like to play soccer and wheelchair rugby and murder ball and highly physical sports, and the amount of people that they get who have some sort of opinion to the effect of, well, you're already disabled, like, why would you risk it? Like, they're just trying to live their lives, like, just if they enjoy it and they're not hurting anybody else and they're with other people who also enjoy it, let them go enjoy it. And I think that one of the things I'm hoping is that instances like Murderball, like the Quad Gods who are excellent competitors who are all quadriplegics who are very good at video games and can play at high levels. The tournament, the adaptive esports tournament, even having high profile friends like you who can get out to the masses that they should care about these kind of things is the disabled person's best friend. It is getting out to society that these are just activities that anybody can get involved in should they ever have a circumstance where they do, and have some hope behind it. And I often say in what I do, I'm a hope dealer. That's really what I am, is I sell hope. I did at my previous job, I do at this job. My job is to remind people that you don't have to just give up. That if you suddenly get a disability or your genetic structure has, as you have discovered, your genetic structure doesn't like you as you get older, and your body starts fighting you because bodies are going to body. That's what they do. You got to figure out how to work around it. You're not just going to go in the corner and be like, "Oh well, it was a good 20 years. I give up now." No, that's crap. You might live for another 60. You got to keep moving forward. You got to find new ways to have fun. And this adaptive world, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. I know that some people's eyes are probably glazing over a little bit listening to us talk about all these adaptive things. But if you go and you look at it and you watch some of these sports, I guarantee you'll have a better time than you think.
Well, it's also like learning to appreciate the fact that like people want to do this stuff and are having fun doing it. Being able to understand that like they have that same mentality that you have. Just because they have a physical disability, just because they have something else that they're dealing with, does not mean that they don't want to have that competitive passion.
Absolutely. We watch football because we enjoy competitive people going on the field and trying to friendly, or not so friendly in some cases, beat the snot out of each other and get a ball across the line. On its face, that is the silliest thing in the entire world. We love it because we're watching people who are passionate about what they do. They're good at what they do. They do spectacular things sometimes. And it's fun to watch. But I challenge you to watch something like wheelchair soccer or power soccer, where they literally are in a small armored vehicle that has plating for armors like medieval times and scoops on the front to kick balls, and tell me that it's not exciting to watch a wheelchair crash into another and knock it over in order to score a goal. Like that is football. That is wheelchair football.
Not to compare it to another sport that I know a lot of people have been on our Reddit yelling about. Battle bots.
Oh yeah.
The wheelchairs are literally like built to be armored to protect the person in them in a way that battle bots are built to protect from damage. And they're built to hit things, which generally they're designed to hit the ball, but there are collisions and stuff that happens. That's part of the sport in real life, just like it should be part of the sport in the adaptive version. And it's going to be. It's unavoidable.
It should be. And I mean, I was the driver for the U.S. first robotics team when I was back in college, and so for 3 years running, went to Disney World every year and competed with world championships to drive a robot that a bunch of really cool people in college at Carnegie Mellon and Pitt University put together to do very mundane or fun things. The one year it was literally grabbing a robot that looked a lot like a centipede with a forklift on the end of it and throwing rings onto a ring toss. And that was like my entire job was to not let this thing crash into walls. And like it was fun. I had a great time doing it. There were disabled people and able-bodied people working side by side. Nobody gave a crap if I was in a wheelchair or if not. All they cared about was that I didn't break the robot when I was driving it. So, I think those are those are the equalizing types. Don't break our robot, Steve. All right, I'll try.
I actually have an interesting story, and I bet you have similar stories. After my kidney transplant, I took a year off from college football because I had to heal, and then I rejoined college football. I wanted to play, and I understood the risks. I signed off on the risks, everything that happened. But my coaching staff inadvertently, and possibly not necessarily inadvertently, but actually consciously made an effort to protect me. When I just wanted to play the game, I just wanted to play the sport, they took onus to try and protect me, so I didn't run certain routes, I didn't do certain things. And so my experience my senior year was a negative one. And it's to this day, like it bothers me because it's like I could have been so much better and I could have done so much more if they just would have let me. We went 0-10 and it made me upset. And I got benched for a freshman that didn't know the playbook. And I think a lot of that had to do with protecting me and the head coach and different stuff. And it's like, yo, I didn't sign off and fight to play for you to protect me from playing.
If you have the capabilities to do a sport, whether it's a video game or a physical sport, if you can beat your able-bodied, quote unquote, competitors, you should earn the spot. I mean, that is, that is something, and I realize I'm treading dangerously close to political stuff here, but this is the world that we should be in. Is if you have the abilities to outshine someone, you should be perfectly fine. You know what is a really good example, especially for all of you listeners out there? You may have heard the stories in the last Olympics of one of the competitors who had a bionic leg. And the bionic leg for adaptive running was simply it's a folded piece of metal that goes in a cap around the socket of your hip joint. And it is intended to allow you to run. It has a spring loaded bottom portion of it. And it was amazing to watch in real time over nearly 2 months. It swung from no one can possibly be as good as an able-bodied person. If you only have one leg and you have to use a piece of adaptive technology, then you're not as good. You'll never compete. To these people were suddenly winning. And then it became that's cheating. That's using a device that you shouldn't be allowed to use because it makes you better than everyone else. And it is kind of the rough spot of a disability is this is kind of what we're used to is it's like everybody looks down on it because you're less than until all of a sudden people start beating other ones who don't need a device and then they call it cheating. So it's this weird back and forth of you got to stay in the middle area where you don't want to outshine too many people or then they're going to complain you're cheating, but also you have to prove you're better than others to get a spot in the first place. And how do you win that argument?
Yeah, and then it's the people that try and protect you instead of letting you being able to do stuff. It's like putting a label on it. It's like, I can't believe you did accomplish this in spite of this. No, it's just amazing that you accomplished it, period. Like, just let the accomplishment live. Don't put a extra anecdote or a disclaimer or something associated with it. That diminishes the accomplishment.
It does, and labels are not a great thing. A self-label is one thing. And whatever you label yourself, you're right about because it's you and you are labeling yourself. But anyone else should not apply labels to you. It should be your things that you have accomplished. Literally just 2 weeks ago, a woman was having a conversation in my proximity that I got to hear them being super happy to a group of other friends. They're all, I'd say 30, 40-year-old group of women who are just hanging out. And she loudly proclaims, my disabled son got a date. I'm so proud of him. He's been trying for so long and he finally got one. And I'm like, why did you have to add my disabled son?
Yeah, why not just my son?
Yeah, just my son. Why did you have to throw that in there? And then, literally I'm speaking at this point towards them going, why was that important? Like why are you exclaiming disabled? And then immediately get an angry group of people at me who are just like, this is not your conversation. I'm like, listen, it's not, but I'm an advocate and I'm telling you, your son would not want you talking in public about my disabled son just got a date. If you got to brag about it, which is okay, parents like to brag, whatever. Then say, I'm so happy my son got a date for this weekend. That's so cool. You had to add the disabled because you wanted your friends to be like, wow, he overcame being disabled and still found someone who found him slightly attractive. That's so cool. And we don't need to do that. We don't need to. It's not necessary. It's putting people down for no reason.
Yeah. And that brings us to psychological barriers that the disabled community deals with. And the labeling is a big part of it. It can cause self-doubt, anxiety, extra overcoming that they have to face these labels and different people viewing them in a different way instead of seeing them just as a person. And so, like, it's extremely important as an athlete to get past psychological things. Which makes it no different for a disabled athlete trying to get over self-doubt, anxiety, struggles, slumps, things like that. And, in many cases, the social stigma that exists amplifies those issues for those that are disabled.
I wish that we would treat injuries to our mind and our psyche the same way we do our body. I will never, until my dying day, and even then, not understand why you will go to a doctor if you so much as stub your toe and it looks like it's not healing. But if you are in a state where your self-doubt has crept up so much that you can't even enjoy an activity, a sport, an everyday thing that you used to love, why we don't go and talk to somebody, why we don't try to seek help from that, and why some people look down on us for that. I will not understand it. I never can. There's so many prevalent invisible disabilities out there. People I know and I love who have anxiety disorders, who will have panic attacks, who, they need people around them to be able to center them and calm them. And
PTSD
PTSD.
from injuries, car accidents. I mean, veterans.
Why don't we talk about it? Why is it looked at as a negative to even talk about this subject? Is what I don't even understand. It's there's very few podcasts like yours that you can come onto and talk about PTSD without it immediately going, yeah. Anyway, so about the fourth time show, it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. This is a valuable subject. Your psyche is fragile. We are humans. We get hurt. We get ashamed. We get bashful. This is things that happen, things, abuses, traumas happen to us, and we have to deal with them. And I think, sports has always been sort of on the forefront of fighting the no, sometimes, especially basketball, football players need someone to coach them out of a time where they are doubting themselves.
Baseball, especially, slumps, sports psychology.
Baseball slumps. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sports psychology is an entire field now. It's something where we used to look down on it, and now it's literally something you can go get a degree in.
And it's used by professional sports teams tremendously because they realize as teams invest millions of dollars into players, that player has something going on mentally that's blocking them from being able to do something. And unfortunately, they look at it as a business. It goes, oh, we're losing money from investing in that player. We want that player to be better, so we want the psychologist there to make them better.
Exactly. Yeah, one of my favorite Baz Luhrmann lines from "Everybody Needs to Wear Sunscreen" is if you can teach yourself to forget the insults and remember the compliments, teach me how. It's sort of the way that we always have been built. Is you can, I mean, because you're a beloved internet personality, you have millions of people who love you. But that one person who says something bad, man, you'll be thinking about that all day long. And that is, I'm in the same boat as you, man. I will have people tell me all day, I'm great, I'm wonderful, thanks for doing what I do. One person will be like, you suck. And I'll be like, God damn, I do suck. Oh, it's amazing how your brain works.
It's also fascinating when you think about that. A negative review, if somebody has a bad experience, they tell 10 people. If somebody has a good experience, they may tell one. It's crazy how that works.
I know more about what my friends don't like than what they do like. That has always been crazy to me. I literally Borderlands 4 just came out, and I found out one of my moderators who's been working with me on Twitch for 8 years loves Borderlands. I know every food this person doesn't like. I know all of their dislikes in shows. No idea about the thing that they like. It's just like but it's human nature. We tend to talk about things we don't like, and because they're traumatic or we're trying to warn others. It's not necessarily malicious. Like, this guy is one of the nicest people I have ever met, but you talk about things you don't like. The things you do, you might mention in passing. Oh, that show was cool. Oh, I heard that podcast. That was good. But then you just move on to the next subject.
Well, it's also like, as people talk about stuff, you can easily, people will be like, oh yeah, that's something that doesn't interest me, or that's something I don't like. So it comes up often and people will say it. It's like people talking about red flags in dating, right? Like, we hear all about these things like the ick. I hate the term ick, but I got the ick from this or from that. And it's like, okay, so what do you like? If that gave you the ick, what were the positive things? Because in dating nowadays, and I know you struggle with dating as much as I do, is people will easily get the ick for something, and all of the good things, all of the things they're like, oh, you're so amazing. Oh, this is perfect. This is phenomenal. All of a sudden, they don't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One little thing they don't like, and it's like, oh, all right, so none of the bonding that we had over this or that, or yeah.
Yeah, and I've always wondered too why it's so difficult to talk about this. So, not to dox Tyler, but we used to talk all the time about the dating worlds and our ups and downs and victories and our defeats and things we tried, things that didn't work. And we loved comparing notes and ideas of like how to be better people, how to find the match for you, ideas. And it's a shame how many, especially between good friends, feel like that's not something you can talk about. I think it should be. I think we should be able to be like, "Hey, I tried this." I'm a lucky guy. Now I've got a wonderful girlfriend who loves me, and it was hard to find someone who I gelled with them. They didn't mind the medical things that I have, and they have this kind of view that you and I do, and I'm guessing a lot of your listeners too. Of everybody has their challenges and has their issues, and finding someone who saw my disability as just something that I have to deal with, just like she has her things to deal with, was hard. I mean, you went through the same thing. Finding that person who's understanding, right? It takes a while. You got to keep at it, and sometimes that takes years. And it's a competitive sport. Dating is a competitive sport. You like was it the CEO of Bumble not long ago said that people look for reasons to swipe people away. They don't look for reasons they like people. They look for reasons to disqualify them, which is a weird way that the world has flipped now. And it's like, I don't want to find out why I like Tyler. I want to find out a reason that I don't talk to him. Damn it, I couldn't find anything I don't like about Tyler. All right, fine, we'll be friends. All right, I guess.
Yeah, and in your there's I think it's called cognitive bias. If you're looking for something, you're going to find it. If you walk in a room and you look for everything brown, and then you get asked what was red in the room, you're not going to know what was red. All you see is what was brown. So by going into that perspective of looking for what's a negative, what's something bad, you're going to find it because you're looking for it. As opposed to looking, if you go into something and look for the positives, you're going to see the positives.
You will see positives, and I think some of it, I'm going to guess you have the same problem I do, which is if you're a known person, you have people who have different familiarity levels with you. And so I go through this a lot. So I stream with the same streamer every Friday night for the last like 5 years, pandemic years, where we have hung out so long. We'll make a joke where someone will yell, "Run," and I'll go, "I can't." And then, my friend will just without missing a beat be like, "He can't even move, he's screwed," and then like someone in chat will try to be funny about it, and it's like, no, you can't make that joke. You can't make the "I can't go jogging" joke. You're not with me on that level. And I think that's kind of the problem when it comes down to being disabled in general is we have this weird like we shouldn't joke about it, we shouldn't talk about it, but it's just the same as, you and I can make a lot of jokes about a lot of subjects that a random person who has never actually spoken to you cannot, but they might feel like they can. And so it's kind of that strange weirdness that we have where people don't always understand boundaries, and especially with a disability, what is your boundaries? What are you comfortable with? What are you not?
Yeah. And I think that's a big perspective as we continue to move forward in making more sports accessible, both for people that are listening and are able-bodied and those that are physically disabled or dealing with mental disability or any level of disability. Making sports accessible and is something for them not only to participate in, but to also enjoy as a spectator, to be able to be a part of that fandom, be a part of that crowd, and not feel like a burden on people. And that's the biggest problem I think that exists in society today.
I think the biggest solution is to listen. Like, if you had had a friend, a champion, who could have dragged that coach aside and said, "Listen, he didn't just go through this harrowing surgery to sit on the effing bench." Like, that would have been the best friend you've ever would have had in your life. You needed that friend, and unfortunately, you didn't have it. And I think if you take anything, dear listener, out of this podcast, is we are appealing to you to be that friend. If you have someone who is being looked down upon because they have a limitation, don't be afraid to drag someone else aside and be like, "Listen, stop looking down on them. Start looking for what they can do and start appreciating them for who they are." And honestly, sometimes people just need a little bit of a metaphorical slap to the upside of the head. Hey, stop looking down on this person. Appreciate them for what they can do.
Well, that's a great place to end this episode. So to finish it off, as we do with all guests, all wonderful people that have joined this podcast, there's one question we always ask because it is the title of our podcast, Go My Favorite Sports Team. What is your favorite sports team, Steve? I have a feeling I know what it is, but
Do I really need to say it again? Go
the Pittsburgh Penguins.
There you go. Yep.
But Steve, I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to you. Shout out where people can find you, where they can follow you, whatever you're working on, where they can support you in any ways or support missions that are important to you.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. First of all, let me say thanks for inviting me to talk to you about sports. And I love that you included me on a subject that not everyone necessarily thinks of someone with a disability first. So thank you for thinking about that. And I encourage others out there listening to think differently as well. If you want to find me and my shenanigans, Steven Spohn, Spohn. You can find me on just about any social media out there, including the cesspool that is Twitter. And I'm a Twitch streamer as well. So when Tyler and I aren't podcasting, you can find us streaming and playing Marvels and Rocket League. For me, my passion involves helping people be the best they can. So I'm just out there trying to make the world a better place, sometimes more successfully than others. But this new place that I'm at, I talked about earlier in the show, Nancy Lieberman Back to Life Center at Mount Sinai, I think is a real deal. I left my 20-year career to go join this adventure and stand up this center that I really hope teaches people how to be disabled, gets people to come in and see, even if you are disabled, how you can still live a full and luxurious life. And I think I wish that for all of your listeners.
Well, thank you so much for joining, Steve. I think this was a very important topic, and I love having these discussions with you. You're a great friend of mine, and it's been far too long, but I'm glad we could make time for this today. If you guys want to support the podcast, accuse us of anything, or share your comments, ideally positive, about people finding accessibility in sports, we'd love to hear it. Go to reddit.com/r/GMFST. If you want to support us in other ways, merch should be coming soon. I don't know if it'll be available now, but store.gmfst.com is where you can go for that. And with that, that's going to do it for this episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.